to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
Hey folks, welcome to this special episode on podcast Freshly Forever. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Dr. Kousalya Nathan. She is an expert in adolescent well-being, women's health, and so much more. Hello, Dr. Kousalya. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So I thought it'll be a great thing to talk about adolescent well-being, women's health, and in general about gut microbiome, immunity, and all those aspects today. So if you were to just start with what adolescent well-being is, because that seems to be becoming more and more significant nowadays. And why is it so? What are some aspects or areas we need to focus in this regard? I think that'll be a good starting point for listeners.
Sure. Thank you, Vaidegi, for having me over for your show. I think it has been going well. I've been listening to your shows since the time I think you initiated this concept.
Oh, thank you.
Good wishes. Yeah. So, coming back to your question on adolescent well-being. I think it's a broad topic to say where I think it starts with hormonal aspect of well-being. That's the first, and then the changes associated with the hormonal factors like the setting in of the puberty, as we kind of call it, following about the mental changes which actually along with it happens, like how a boy or a girl perceive themselves as to be, the initial stages of an self-image formation happens during that stage of an adolescent. And also about, the physical, mental, emotional aspect, which is also changing and evolving and forming at this point. So I think this adolescent health is an ongoing process. It can start as early as even 8, and it goes on for some till even 19, So though WHO defines adolescent as between 10 to 19, but I think you see it setting in even early, where a little bit pre-adolescent stage, and adolescent stage is something which is quite a broad, nearly I would say, the transition from childhood to the being adult, that's the transition which happens in them. So I think we need to look at the hormonal, emotional, mental, and physical aspect of their well-being at this stage, because you cannot put any symptom or any change as one particular aspect. It's a group of things happening together. At the same time, where you see mental change, you also see emotional, hormonal, but what comes first differs from child to child. It's very different. Someone can have the periods. A girl can start with the periods first, and then probably the secondary sexual development of the development of the breast, or puberty hair, or change in voice, or it could be acne, or emotional aspect of the hormones. It varies with each child depending on the environmental factors, the genetic components to this, the setting in of puberty, and also the food and the nutrition and the lifestyle that also plays an important part in this aspect of adolescent well-being.
Okay. What is it that the teenagers in this phase can expect? What is kind of normal, and what probably throws them off? Sometimes they may find it shocking, that they are experiencing certain things. So if you were to categorize something as what is normal, so that whoever listens to this podcast can feel comfortable about the changes that they are experiencing.
Sure. I think it's a variety of symptoms that a boy and a girl goes through, and it is totally different. We start with the girls because I think, the whole puberty is always first, is to do with the girls, is what we all kind of think. But we'll come to the boys, how the puberty sets in boys as well. The first thing with the girl, puberty can be secondary sexual, characters of development of breast development or protrusion of the nipples. It can be some pink kind of discoloration around the nipple area. It can be, the pubic hair growth, which can be softer, or, it can be, silky to getting little more dense and darker. So that's also is a sign. And underarm, the hair growth underarm, and, these are few of the, puberty symptoms which the girls experience. Along with, that's the physical aspect. The mental aspect can be, about the change, just to kind of, to believe that there's a change. So the awareness is there, but I think to accept the change is where I think most of the girls have that little bit of the difficulty about accepting the change, or they feel scared that, okay, meaning, I'm going to get my periods, or something different is happening in my body, though she is seen in the society that it is normal. It's not something the child wouldn't have noticed at all. But when it's going first time into her, or she sees some change in her, it's not the first feeling of a liking that a girl gets to. It takes time, and they need to process it in the mind. And then, each girl takes their own time to kind of fall into acceptance of the changes which is happening in them, the initiation. The period, starting of the first period, can happen from 9 years or later. Usually it is from 9 to around 14. But these days you also see as early as around 7 or 8, like a precocious puberty which sets in girls for varied other reasons. But this changes, it can be the periods. And then I also see a lot of girls experiencing white discharge before the periods, which is also a normal factor. And some of them, they would have a discharge which is probably very moist and probably very jelly like discharge, which also kind of, they get scared thinking probably something abnormal happening in them, because it's the first discomfort to start with. It is a discomfort, it's something they're not used to. It's something discomfort, and then they process it in the mind where, what if, I kind of, my panty become wet, or what if, my clothes kind of stain, or all these kind of stuff becomes little more pressurizing on their mind till they get adapted to it, like, going through at least 6 cycles to 12 cycles for a girl to normalize or to relate to periods as an normal phenomenon. So I think these are the changes which you see with the girls. And emotional aspect, I see girls cry each time they get the periods. It's not because of anything. It's that acceptance, that difficulty in accepting the change which is coming. And the most important is the peer pressure. The peer pressure can be both ways. Some girls do experience or feel that, okay, few of, if at all, all the probably going in 6th grade or 7th grade girls, they all talk about it, because at least 1 or 2 will start first and it goes. And the first one who kind of, sets in, I'm sure the girl is going to talk about it, or, all those come by. So for them, I think all of them will not get the same thing at the same time. So it's going to be the different time. So the peer pressure on them is either, I don't want it now, or why still that, I haven't got it when she has got the, it can be both ends of the spectrum that, actually I come across here in India, where, I see this spectrum and that spectrum, where they don't want to talk about it, until the whole kind of class girls have set into puberty. There are few girls, they don't want to talk about, their puberty, which is set in so freely. So there is a lot of stress which goes in the girl's mind. It can affect their academics, or it can affect their, the concentration level, or they go into mood swings, irritabilities. By and large, it's the fight with the mother which happens. And the girl, the girls, again, fighting with the mother becomes a little more, a very common phenomena. So these are the things which you see with the girls, and the transition of this puberty, or setting in of the puberty as we may call it so. But how to handle all this is something which probably we should discuss during this, course of our discussion. And that's something that is very important for every parent to know how to handle this kind of, situation when the transition is.
Yeah. Now that you said that, actually, I was going to ask you this. What about the socio-cultural side? I think that's where, all these come in, right? Whatever you pointed out. So how is it that we handle? I know we are going to talk about boys separately, but what about, now that we touched upon the girls side of it, you pointed out very nicely about the physical side, the emotional side. What about the socio-cultural aspects? And you also touched upon the cognitive side, how it can impact their concentration and all of that. So when it comes to the socio-cultural aspects and also nutrition, so what is it that we need to focus on?
I think when it comes to socio-cultural change, it varies with, in fact, in India, it varies with different cultural sects, so it's very different, every sector of cultural aspect, Hinduism or religious factors, or, in Christianity, it is very different. And, Islamic practices in India, they do the whole thing different. But in all this, the common thread is there is, and unlike, I think, other countries, European countries and Western world, I think Indian scenario with the socio-culture is totally different, as you might be aware of. I'm sure you're aware of it. So this is very different, First of all, I think in my own family, I think I know, one of my, a niece, she didn't want her father and her brother to know about it. For a very long time. Like, it was something which probably was her, a stigma of insecurity.
Exactly.
She didn't feel comfortable. So she said, I think if you want to tell my father and my brother and, my grandfather, I think she would shut from all of us. Like, she would just close the door and say, I don't want to come out,
She probably found it embarrassing too at that point.
I think she didn't know how to handle it. It was a change. And, it also kind of came to her more on an unexpected time in her mind. She had put her own timing to it and it didn't click. So that was another factor in her mind playing too. So I think these all is a transition. It's a change. The socio-cultural aspect is very different from every kind of country that in which, or the environment sector in which the girl is being raised. So that's a very different thing, and that has to be dealt with high degree of sensitivity, because we also see joint family culture still going on here in Indian scenario, where the grandmother, the rituals are very intense, I would say, compared to rest of the world. So I think these all needs a lot of mental preparation and, mental kind of a thing. But this also in those days had a kind of an impact to make the girl comfortable with everybody around, because it was not a stigma for a girl to feel embarrassed about having a period. So that was probably the idea those days, where they worked on this to create that kind of an social inclusiveness once this happens. So I think
and make it as a celebration instead of having to feel like it's a taboo topic.
True. So I think that gave them that comfort and the confidence to kind of move on. But yes, I think that is one aspect of the socio-cultural that you see.
In fact, there's also some other cultures here. I notice when I go to Hallmark and pick up, any greeting card for an occasion, I notice that there are other cultures that celebrate it too. So it was surprising to me. It's not just, like an Asian culture thing or anything. So I guess each, like you said, each segment or each culture has its own way of embracing it in a different form. But I always tell myself one thing: as humans, I think we all come together in although we may do it slightly differently, we all come together in some form or the other. I mean, like, we just tend to do, there's a common medium.
True. Yeah. Actually, recently there was one of my clients from Bangalore. She's around probably 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
And first time I heard this from her saying, Doctor, I think I am paying your fees from the money, the time I collected on her, what she said was my first period party.
Oh.
She said, I think, that's a culture here too. I didn't know there was a first period party, to be honest. I don't know how it works there, Vaidegi, but then, that was something new to me because I didn't know. I've not seen, at least growing up from probably from down south, as you know, I think I haven't heard of first period party. I didn't know what that was. And I believe that she told me, I asked her more about it because I was curious. And she said, that has to be hosted by the mother.
Mm-hmm.
The mother has to host that party and all friends come. And I believe they have to give some money. So I didn't know that, that you have a party and there is a cake which has been made and cut and all those kind of stuff, which was absolutely something new. And I didn't know, even it existed, I didn't know in India such parties exist because I have not attended one so far.
Like there's so much of a blend there. So in terms of different cultures, so it's nice to know. So I think it's important for the kids to feel good about it and embrace it. What about the
True.
role of parents and other adults in society?
Yeah.
How best can we prepare them to face this change?
Correct. I think the major role, I think, as I'm sure you will agree, lies with the mother, because the girl feels comfortable talking about it with the mother more than the father. So I think from the age of 6, it's very important to kind of slowly educate the girl about the physical part and what normalcy is, and because I'm sure when the mother is getting her period, she knows there's something happening to the mother, because I think it's a monthly cycle, you cannot hide it, right? So somewhere I think the girl would would have kind of noticed that something different is going on, or something, she would have heard the word periods or all that is there. When it comes to parents, there is a lot of emotional support and then emotional secured feeling that the girl is very important in educating them, in giving them the comfort, giving them the mental space to evolve and grow and to question anything they want to in relation to her physical body, her image, and also this aspect of what periods is all about. Because I know at a 4-year-old girl, I mean niece, so she had come home and she watched that, the ad, the sanitary pad ad on TV, and she was around 4.5. She wanted to know what that was and why that girl was jumping and why they poured blood, and see, they show all that, right? So what is it, but she knew there's something related to the girl, because only girls come on that ad and you can make out, right, that little thing you can pick up. So I think it's very important in some form to open that dialogue and then have that conversation to keep them feel comfortable, so that even from age of 7 or 8, they do carry a sanitary pad in their school bag at all given times, that if there is anything they see, they can always report to the teacher, or or she can use this and then come and probably share this with the mother. So I think it's more towards, I think, mother's role till then is what I feel, because now it's all, every mother now wants to handle it her way, which is probably very different. Mothers also handle, like, for example, I would handle my daughter in a particular way. My mother would have handled or the situation with me in a particular fashion. And my grandmother, I see how she had handled my mother. So I think with the generation, we all have our own ideas and notion of how we want to handle this. So I think, that way, I think mothers, I feel, play a very vital role in this. And in case they have sisters, I think they are the first one to break the news before the mother, because I think they share the space and, the conversation become interesting. It becomes a girl's talk, something more girly kind of a thing with it. So I think if there are girls and in the family, like, sisters, I think the best is through them. And I think the right information should always be provided by the mother.
Okay. Plus, I think the role of the educational system, wherever that is culturally, that is viable, I think
Sure,
that
I
should
think
also.
it's already there here in India. I'm sure it's there in the US as well.
Oh, it is. It is. It is very much here, and I think kids in like you said, that transition phase of like when they get to the upper grades in elementary school, I think they definitely are exposed to it, and they get to know about it. So I think when the children come home and talk to the mother, more than likely, the mother than anyone else, right, or the sibling, I think one should feel free to have an open dialogue, like you said, and
Sure.
that is going to facilitate the transition. What about the role of nutrition during this phase?
I think nutrition is a very, very important aspect of this puberty phase. And most of the time, you would see precocious puberty or hormonal imbalance if there is a disruption in the nutritional component, which can be environmental, like plastics, or using synthetic kind of involvement with the food, like processed and all those kind of stuff coming in. So if there is a weight gain or childhood obesity, you would see that some girls, if they attain the ideal weight, which can be before their ideal age, will kind of touch puberty. So I think weight also has an proportionate involvement or an impact on the menarche point of view. So I think it's very important to, from beginning, to give them more on organic foods, and not to kind of put them through the processed part of eating, which is a very, I feel, healthy eating can be cultivated. I think until you really show them the taste of sugar, I don't think a child will still believe apple is sweet. I mean, nobody today, if you ask me what is a sweet, the first thing can be a cake or a pastry or an ice cream. Nobody says apple. Apple is still a sweet thing. So it's about how you work on the nutrition from the younger age. Definitely makes a huger impact on the child well-being and nutrition when it comes to menarche. See, I think, and here I think we need to understand that there are a lot of hormonal disruptors from which can go into your system from the environment and food, which can be eating on kind of plastics, or using a lot of plastic items in your plates, or in the form of bottles, water bottles, or some form of such things. And also non-stick cookwares are much more dangerous. The coating, which again is a hormonal disruptor, so it can also cause kind of an hormonal disruptions because of the environmental factors. And the third is the stress. So I think the childhood involvement growing has to be as calm and as open and free that it should be, for the child to kind of evolve, grow, and then form.
So open channels of communication is important, and also introducing healthy food habits right from the start.
Yeah, I mean, openness, I mean, here is about not to kind of put too many barriers towards a child wanting to do whatever, like, because they want to play in the mud, or they want to kind of exercise, they want to do some hand coordination, something, they want to do something craft, or they want to do whatever, mathematics, they want to comb their own hair, they want to dress up, whatever it may be. I think that space should be given under protective environment for them to explore themselves.
Exactly.
That is where I think the overall comfort comes in, and the transition can be a little bit more easier. Otherwise, they go into maybe being introvert or feeling insecure, and all those comes in when this is not created as a base for them to kind of enter puberty.
Oh,
So
very well
nutrition
said.
plays an important role, and that needs to be addressed.
Okay, awesome.
Back in a moment with our guest on Fresh Leaf Forever.
What about boys? I think we have talked a lot about girls, and if we can focus on what boys can expect and how we handle them and what issues you normally see them experiencing.
Yeah. Yes, boys again, I think their experience is totally different. And boys enter into puberty a few years later than girls. Girls are a little ahead. I think for boys, usually it's 10 plus. Girls can enter at 8, but boys 10 plus, slowly they kind of thing. But for them to set in, it is always 11, 12, slowly. But between the boys and the girls, the boys, once it sets in, which can be 11, 12, or majority of them see at the age of 14, that's in the 7th grade or 8th grade, 9th grade, you see a sudden change in them. It can be a breaking of the voice. That's something which doesn't happen to girls. There's a voice change which happens. And then there is definitely, as girls, they also have the secondary sexual characters of, the facial hair and, the underarm, hair growth and pubic hair growth happening. And they have acne. Some of them do experience acne. And there is a sudden spurt in the growth. It can be they grow suddenly very tall. In the matter of 3 years, they kind of, attain the maximum, probably their 60 to 70% of the height that they grow is attained during that period. So they suddenly see a drastic change in their physical self. So whereas girls is slow, whether all are the breast development or the height, it is a little slower. For boys, you see that spurt, which is very sudden. So with that, I think, and it is again to do with the hormone testosterone. Like for girls, it's estrogen balance. Here it's a testosterone. And testosterone is again, is a very, very tricky hormone, because when the sudden surge of testosterone comes, you see anger, you see energy, you see, like as if like they can conquer the world. They are hyperactive. They just think nothing can stop them. They are ultimate, that kind of a high, it gives them that high, that phase. So they can get into anything like, whether good, and it can also be exercise, fitness. Some boys channelize their energy into it because they like the thrill of it, the energy of it, the drive, the endorphin effect which they gets in there. And some of them go into smoking or, trying alcohols because they feel suddenly that they are big. They suddenly feel they are an adult. That feeling comes for the boys earlier than girls. Girls still, they feel the waters. They want to go a little more slow. Boys just jump because they don't think, they just act. So they act. So those things you see with the boys, such changes. But definitely there is a time lag between girls and boys. Girls are ahead and boys are slightly kind of few years later than girls. So I think here the main thing that how we need to handle is, I think rest of it can be spoken about, they would know by then. But the anxiety, the anger, and disappointment, because if for example, because of the anger, like a boy wants something, the mother doesn't want to give. So the anger and the disappointment again clubs, and it can disrupt the relationship, because I'm sure the boy is not going to, ask for something fair. But if there is any unfair deals which come in, which is much more to be dealt with, I think the friction between the father and the son, or the mother and the son, becomes a little more intense during that phase. But having said this, we need to also kind of share this news that they settle down when they are in their high school. So I think that's a good thing. They settle down very beautifully. I think most of the boys you would see, they may not do so great till they are, the 10th grade, till they're, the A level. I think you call it what? I think it's A levels
like
there.
No, it's sophomore and junior year here. So the 10th and 11th grade phase.
But when they go to their, 11th and 12th, that's the A level, I guess. So I think they settle down and they score well. They are focused. They know what they want to. So you see a sudden thing. It's like sudden up, down like that with boys, whereas with girls is generally slow and little on a steadier platform. So I think we need to understand that bit, and then probably I think give them that little kind of space and scope and room to talk to, and channelize them on some physical activity, like anything, to burn that excess energy so that they can sleep better, they feel calmer, and their concentration can be a little more improvised.
Okay. And again, I think the nutritional side of it applies to both boys and girls equally.
Absolutely. Yeah, yes. I think nutrition and lifestyle is definitely an important factor. Even in boys, I think obesity is something to be watched for. And if the obesity in childhood, boys, in childhood, if it sets in, I think the testosterone production, it can affect. So there could high chance of this estrogen testosterone imbalance where boys develop something called gynecomastia, like breast-like development can happen in boys, so which needs to be prevented. So again, to do with the nutrition of eating right, eating healthy, eating more nutritious, eating more balanced and organic is very important, along with giving them, making sure that they're not overweight. There's no childhood obesity sitting in them, because they can again disrupt the testosterone factors.
Okay. And I think that's a good explanation as far as what boys should do, what girls should do, in terms of what to expect from them and how we can handle them, and so on and so forth. And if we were to just nail down and focus on the menstrual aspect with girls, say, so many of them seem to feel the premenstrual pain and like painful period. So that seems to be on the increase with teens, and more of hormonal correction measures like birth control pills are being used, and especially Western world, like that is like a common prescription to set right female issues. So what is happening in the first place? How do we achieve a balance? And again, how can we support the teens when they go through this phase?
I think the first factor is to kind of, record the periods and then note them, probably, have a tracking method to see how many days once that the period cycle is forming in. Okay, so the normal period cycle can be from 25 days to 35 days. So it is normal. If at all you're having a cycle within that phase of between 25 and 35, that's normal. But if it goes more than 40 days, like, you're getting the cycle only once in 40 days or once in 50 days or after once in 60 days, so there is no rhythm to the cycle. And then that is the time that you need to look into what's going not right in the system. I see first thing is the stress levels, because children, girls, they undergo a lot of stress because they enter the academic part of it. It can be probably the academic pressures, or it can be the family pressures, or that's a time where the parents keep them so busy, like they want them to enroll them in QMath or into Bharatanatyam dance or some cultural or tuition classes or some, whatever. They have been packed. So there is a stress which is there, the hypothalamic, ovarian axis, where there is a stress which can cause this kind of a hormonal disruption. Second thing is the nutrition part. So the nutrition part is very, very important, where to maintain the cycle. That could be iron deficiency anemia, where there is an anemia which is setting in the girl, for which the periods can get delayed. So you need to correct that anemia factor by giving them more of green leafy vegetables, or peanuts, or peanut bar, or flaxseed bars, or jaggery based some form of an unprocessed nuts and seeds, and a mixture of all that. They need to focus on the nutrition to make sure that the ferritin levels, the iron quotient is there on a healthy platform for them to make sure that there's no deficiency based change in the menstrual cycle. And the third aspect to this kind of having, as you said, that they've been put on oral contraceptive pills to cycle to get the regularization, we need to watch out for polycystic ovarian syndrome. There's something called PCOS, like, polycystic ovarian syndrome, where the ovaries get cystic and they may be getting the periods on a monthly basis, but those cycles will be anovulatory cycles, meaning there is no ovulation. It just the hormone up and down happening, the estrogen, progesterone, and it's a withdrawal bleeding. It's not a proper ovulation which probably happened and then the periods followed. That normal physiology might get disrupted because of this factor called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is very common here in India as well. So I think you need to watch out on these factors to make sure that the girl has got the healthy cycle and there is a rhythm and pattern to the cycle, and these aspects are being taken care of in a proper fashion to make sure that it's not affecting their health over a period.
Okay. As you talked about, the estrogen, progesterone balance, or, that one can be high, the other can be low, or the dominance factors too. On a week by week basis, does it make sense for, say, in a 28-day cycle, focus over the period of 4 weeks on a certain type of diet so that the estrogen is kept in balance and the progesterone during that time, the later part of the cycle, I believe, we don't let it over dominate?
Yeah, you can definitely work on that aspect of it, in balancing the estrogen and progesterone, as you mentioned, the 28-day cycle to do it. So which can be the first 10 days to be more on, peanuts and, with mixed seeds and dates and figs, and more on dry fruits and a lot of green leafy vegetables, and then, cottage cheese and stuff. So I think that will help, in having an estrogen which is normally being there as a part of creating a healthy ovulation. The second half has to be more on steamed foods. It can be steamed sweet potato, it can be steamed potato, or any form of steamed vegetables or beans and lentils, which will help them that kind of an, the whole grains, particularly the whole grain with the outer skin, to have it on the later stage to give them a little bit more on balancing the progesterone to have a normal cycle. But having said this, I think it is very practically difficult to kind of, do this on a kind of an every monthly cycle. You can do it for probably a month or so, but to put the girls into this rhythm is going to be a very, very challenging task. Or I would put it the other way around, that it has to be a creative task. You need to come out with new ideas, new thoughts, and new palatable solutions to give this to them on a weekly basis to have the desired benefit. So this is going to be some may like, some girls may have, the palate is very different, right? The tastes are very different, because that I've seen in my practice, where we worked on this actually in correcting, the premenstrual tension. But then what happened was, I think they all had their own strong preferences that time. So if at all their sweet tooth is not being addressed, or they don't, the choice of their food is not being kind of included, then I think they had more emotional issues and more, I think I would say, disturbances than that making a positive impact on them. So I think we need to personalize that stuff depending on the girl, how and the palate she likes, and the taste and the options, to keep it a little more creative, simple, educate them parallelly. And then I think probably it is a long drawn process, but it is definitely doable.
Okay. Again, there is no one size fits all approach, and, it has to be tailor made to the individual. And it's a question of the individual embracing that, whatever you're trying to do as well. So it's an education phase, like you said. And what about soy products? There's like so much talk about soy and hormones, right? So if you can also quickly touch upon how it impacts girls, and when is the right time in the cycle to like safely consume soy products? And what effect does it have on boys as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the soy, as we all know, has the phytoestrogen component in it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that, it's now a lot of, papers, research works have come in. So here, how are we going to have the soy, in which form? It can be in soy milk, or it can be, tofu, or it can be soy kind of like the whole soy in the form of a steamed or boiled one, or like salads, or, all those kind of few options which is available.
Yeah, there's
Now,
fermented soy like tempeh, miso, and all those options.
tempeh, yeah, fermented. See, I think all that is there. But the problem is, in my, at least here in India, I think we feel that, and they don't take on well to the soy products, because one, I think it doesn't taste great. It's an
Mhm.
acquired taste. It's not something which was existing in our traditional meal plan. It was
Mhm.
never there. It was
Mhm.
never there. It's a new phenomena. It's probably brought from the Western world. It doesn't come from our Indian kind of an uh, phase. But yes, but here I think if the girl is able to tolerate the soy, then I think in moderation you can introduce and see how she's responding.
Mhm.
It's again a trial with each child. As you said, one cannot fit all. You can start from the 7th day to the 14th day and see how. That's the phase which probably is very crucial for the girls, because next phase would be the ovulation stage. So this pre-ovulation stage can actually help in the ovulation process to set in the right way. So I think we can try. There's nothing wrong in trying kind of, whether it's a fermented soy or the milk, or homemade soy milk, or it can be the tofu and salads and stuff. So all that can be definitely attempted. But the caution here is, in case if there is a thyroid issue with girls, like it's very common here in India that 1 out of 3 do come with hypothyroidism. You
Mhm.
should definitely not consider giving them soy at all. Soy should be out of your dietary system if there is an hypothyroidism which is being detected, because then it's going to affect the thyroid hormone. So that's one thing we need to be careful. Second thing is, there are some girls who come with excessive bloating following soy products,
Mhm.
because genetically it is not compatible. You're not being used to. So if there is such issue, then you need to replace with something else, maybe more on the seeds like pumpkin seeds or seed milk. You can actually mix seed and mix nuts. Actually that's something which we recommend, which is working wonders here, is about the mixture of pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, sunflower seeds, all that to be soaked along with flax seeds, with some cashews and almonds and all to be soaked. And then, of course, you can take milk out of it, and then they can add some vanilla flavor or something and have it as a drink.
Okay.
That
Can this be had irrespective of what stage of the cycle they are in, like across the 4 weeks?
yes,
Um,
yes,
okay.
yes,
Or
yes.
is one seed beneficial during the first half more than the other?
I think this can be had throughout the cycle. In fact, they can have it throughout from the time the puberty is setting in, because this has got a lot of vitamin E, which is very, very important in ovulation,
Mhm.
for a girl. And as you know, vitamin E is an antioxidant as well, which stops the free radical formation. And the third part is, this is the stage, is the growth spurt of the girl is coming in, like for example skin glow, or about a healthy hair, the overall, the feeling of good feeling
Mhm.
about herself comes this phase. So I think this is more like having a dose of good antioxidant from the right source, of natural source, in the form of nuts and seeds, is definitely is going to help them in the process of this puberty.
Okay. Awesome. What about soy and boys?
Yeah, I think from my side, it's a big no. I think
Okay.
I would definitely not recommend soy for boys at all. But yes, you can opt for cottage cheese instead. but I think so is a big no, because phytoestrogen, each one, see, of course, every boy will have a small portion of estrogen in them, like how all girls will have a small portion of testosterone in them. But this can actually push or aggravate or increase the estrogen component in the boy over a period of time. It has been regular and being overused. So I think if it is used in caution and occasionally, which is okay as long as they don't have any other disruptions. But I think by and large, I would probably avoid prescribing it for boys.
Okay. Okay. What about eating concerns, body image, and its relevance to whatever we have been talking? Because I think girls have become super conscious of what size clothes they fit into. So I think size zero has become the norm. So, what about the eating concerns and the body image? And of course, we cannot. Uh, stop without saying we need to focus on nutrition, so they can't compromise that. So how does it all play together?
Yeah, I think great. It's a good question. So I think you need to, work on developing a healthy relationship with food. I think there's nothing diet or dietary prescription or nutrition prescription that's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
We need to help the children connect with food and develop a healthy relationship with food for them to make the right choices or the healthier choices. Any child, I'm sure even in our childhood, if there is ice cream and a bowl of fruits, I think it's a natural instinct and we would have run to probably have a dig into an ice cream. Isn't it a normal phenomenon?
Mm-hmm.
So I think somewhere, I think it's important to teach them about moderation and balance, and nothing is bad. I think in food, every food is good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how much one can have of what is what we need to educate the kids and give them that space or the rope to evolve. Otherwise, they're going to cheat on us for sure. It can be this extreme of not eating, going anorexic, or it can be eating junk and becoming overweight. You have these two spectrums in this age group of adolescent, where you will see more on either overeating and junking, lack of physical exercise, sedentary lifestyle, or I see these days more common is being anorexic. So the anorexia is like the mother gives you the glass of milk. As soon as the mother leaves the room, the daughter pours it into the drain. So I think, and tells the mother she had the milk. So the mother is thinking she had. I have one doctor friend, she's a gynecologist. Her daughter, she's around 14 years old. I think suddenly one day when she was cleaning the cupboard, she found packets of all those, the chips packet, the covers, the empty covers, the chocolate wrappers, all that hidden and shoved. And she's an overweight child, behind, because she didn't want anybody to know that she's eating, junking on all those kind of stuff. So I think what I'm trying to bring to the point here is develop and help children have a healthy relationship with food through being unhealthy, giving a healthy environment at the table when all the family members are having a family meal. It cannot be like you drinking aerated drinks and putting a rule on the child to drink, orange juice. It won't work. Until you join and drink the orange juice with the child from beginning, the child is not going to kind of eat healthy because books say so. The child is not going to follow any book to eat healthy. It's about following examples, following the environment in which a child is growing. I think that is what is to give them a long rope to know that what is right and what's wrong. And, end of the day, whatever it may be, whatever age we may be, I think we always believe whatever our mother gave us is the best food ever. I tell my clients, they would ask me, can I eat chicken? Can I eat mutton curry or whatever in non-vegetarian foods, which is a question sometimes when they come on diet, which happens. I just ask them one question. Did your mother feed you chicken? Then you should have it.
Mhm.
If the mother fed you mutton, because most of the mothers wouldn't have, it would be only twice a week.
Mhm.
No mother would have given them the option of having, chicken every day. It
Mhm.
would be only twice a week, or those days it was only Sundays. It was
Mhm.
one day a week,
Mhm.
I think whatever the mother followed is 200% the best for the child. I think here now for us, because of our, I think economic probably betterment, if I may say so, which we have compared to the last 20-25 years. I think we have single children or child, one single child, or maximum two, where we want to give them the best of foods and best of everything. So we are willing to spend more, and we want to satisfy the children, and we think that that's the way to keep them happy. So I think these kind of mental blocks and mental ideas and myths and ideas somewhere challenges your own upbringing. If I want to feel that I think I want to give my son something better, then I'm questioning my own upbringing. Probably I'm believing that it was not great, which I think is not the right thing to do. My mother did the best for me, and I probably, with my little knowledge, want to do something better for my son my own way. That's about it. But nothing wrong, or there's no comparison between how this happened or that generation grew up. So there is a common path that we need to understand.
Okay, perfect. I think well said. So everyone needs to focus on what is right, and just do the best to keep themselves healthy. I think those were great insights, Dr. Kousalya, and thank you so much for taking the time to explain everything in detail to the listeners. And we look forward to catching up with you again in the future. And thank you so much for your time, and for being here on the show.
Thank you, Vaidehi, for having me in your show as well. I completely enjoyed, talking to you, and this discussion was absolutely brilliant. And your questions and everything has been well researched and well thought of. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And listeners, as always, follow the podcast and follow me on Instagram at YP Kumar. I'll definitely catch up with you again with another interesting guest and yet another interesting topic. Until then, it's your host, Vi, saying so long.